Hi, welcome to Regatta Master. In this segment we are going to cover the basics of progression. We'll call this Progression 101. First thing to do is set up a progression system. Go to the menu and click Progression Systems. You can see that there are a number of progression systems in this demonstration database. But we're going to just look at the basics right now. This is a built-in progression system for heats and finals type of racing and for 6 lanes. So the components of the progression system are the lane priorities and the progression levels. You can have alternating lanes for each priority, and you can set the system to do a coin toss between lane priority systems during progression. Progression levels are the levels of competition. As you can see, we have 2 levels here, heats and finals. Level 1 is always the grand final. So you work your way down from the initial level of competition, whether it's time trials, eliminators, heats, what have you, and work your way to level 1, the final. We can look at one of the other systems where there are semifinals and time trials. But in this segment, we're just going to cover the basics. Simple 6-lane racing, heats to final. In our progression levels, we have some options as to how they are presented in the race schedule. So we say we want them to be defined as heats. We can make this either numeric or alphabetical. Same with the finals. Since we only have one final in this progression system, all we have to say is it's a final. Here's where we set the coin toss for the alternate lane priorities. You can do it by level. This updates the progression text for that level, or all the races in the regatta. This updates the race levels. So if we were to change this to numeric, for instance, now all the heat labels will show up numeric. Okay, so we have our progression levels and our optional settings for those. Let's go to advanced. This is where the progression rules are defined. It's based on the number of entries. So since this is a 6-lane course, our cases in this simple example are based on divisors of 12 or of 6. So in the first case with 1 to 6 entries, we only need a final. So what we're saying here is create one final. All of these rules need to have a destination, even if it's itself, which looks a little odd, but that's the way it works. So we're saying top place and the lowest place. We have six boats randomly assigned, and progression method is none because the final is the only race. You can see down below that this number is 0, which is what you want it to be. It could be a positive number. If it's a negative number, it means there's something wrong with your progression rules because you don't have enough lanes for the boats you're trying to advance. In the case of 7 to 12 boats, we need heats. So you see we've created 2 heats going to the final, and we've created one final. In the heats, we're saying we want the top 3 boats from each heat to go to the final. Again, the seeding method is random, but this time the progression method is place and time. You have various options for advancing boats out of this round into races in the next round, but since there is only one race in the next round, it doesn't matter which one you pick here, they're all going to get to this one final either way. The seed method is the manner in which the lane priorities are assigned. Usually this is set to place and time. That puts the fastest first place boats in the middle and progressively slower boats to the outside of the course per FISA regulations. In this case, 19 to 24, we did something a little different because we have 4 heats and we're advancing the first place from each of those heats. That's only 4 boats, but we want a 6-boat final. So we're saying advance the first place from each heat and the next 2 fastest times in the heats to the final. By checking this, you're saying advance the next 2 fastest second place time and all the references to table value are an advanced topic that we will get to in another segment. Okay, so we've set up our basic heats to final progression. So let's actually advance some boats. You can do progression in one of 2 places. You can do it from the Events tab, which is just the list of events. Go into progression. You can do it here. I usually do it from the timing screen itself. So let's look at these races here. So here's our 2 heats. It's a race with 8 entries, so the system put 4 entries in each one, and you can see we have times and places for both heats. So we click on the progression tab up here. We see that we have 4 boats in each of the heats and no boats in the final, which means we haven't done the progression for the final yet. So let's do that now. Click Manage Progression. So you can see it takes us to the same screen that we got to from the Events tab, showing that we have 2 heats. They're done, ready to advance. This says Advance Complete because I've already done this once, but we'll do it again. So click Advance. Now that step marks the boats for advancement, but it does not do the draw. The reason for this is because you can have boats from more than one level of competition going into the same race. So you need to wait until both or all levels, for instance, heats and reps, are done before you advance them to, say, semifinals or finals. So we have marked the boats for advancement, but we have not advanced them yet. So let's take a look at what we did. Click Manual Entry, and we'll just sort it by place. And you see that we have marked the first 3 places of both heats to go to the final, which is the only option in this case. So we're done with this. Let's select the final and just click Go to Selected Race. So you can see we're now in the final and there's no boats. So we click Advance Boats. It says there's 6 boats to advance. Click Yes. Normally you do not retain finish times, but you have the option to do it. This would be in the case of a time final where you've run your heats or semis, but you're unable, because of weather or some other issues, to actually run the final, and you want to determine a winner based on their performance in the last round. In that case, you would bring in all the boats that were going to advance with their times and then calculate an overall finish order. But we're not going to retain the times, so say no. And here are the 6 boats that were marked for advancement. They have been seated in their proper lanes and we're ready to race. And that concludes Progression 101. Thank you.